In this lesson, you're going to learn how to make an input-output table. You may also hear them called pattern tables or function tables. So I'm going to start here with my rule. So every number that we use in this chart is going to be applied to a rule. On my T-chart, the left side is my input, and I'm going to use the variable x to represent my input. The other side is my output. The output is my answer. So when I put in x, y is my output, the answer to the problem. And I'm going to go ahead and give x several values because it is a variable. I know that it can change values. So I'm going to start with 1. The rule up here says 3x equals y, and we know that is the same thing as 3 times x, and that's going to equal my output, which is y. So I'm going to replace x with this first number, and over to the side I'm going to rewrite 3 times x when x is equal to 1. Well, 3 times 1 is 3. So when I put in 1, my answer is 3. Now I'm going to try 2. So instead of 3 times 1, I'm going to try 3 times 2, which is 6. So when the input is 2, the output, the answer, is 6. Now 3 times 3, which is 9. And I'm going to keep going down my chart. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 will be 15. And 3 times 6 is 18. So my relationship from 1 to 3 is that I multiplied by 3. And I did that to every number on my chart. The rule has to apply to every single number used. There's also a relationship between the x's. These numbers are going up by 1. And these numbers are going up by 3. So as you can see, there are many reasons why we would call this a pattern or function table. Let's try another one. So over here, my rule is x plus 20 equals y. So once again, my input, I'm going to represent as x, and the output, the answer, is supposed to equal y. And I'm just using x and y because that's the standard letters used, but these could be a plus 20 equals b, or any other letters that you want. So I'm going to give x some values. So fill these into your chart. And I'm going to start plugging in all of the numbers for x into the rule. So the rule was x plus 20. And I'm going to start plugging in the first value for x, which is 5 plus 20. And it's important, especially if your operations are multiplication or subtraction, that you're replacing the number with the exact placement of the variable in the problem. I know 5 plus 20 is 25. So when I put in 5, I get out 25. Next I will do 10. 10 plus 20 is 30. 15 plus 20 is 35. 20 plus 20 is 40. 25 plus 20 is 45. And my last input is 30. And 30 plus 20 is 50. So the relationship from x to y is that y is 20 more than the x. And that works on every single one of these pairs. I also can see my pattern with x. It increases by 5. as well as y. Let's try another example. On this one, my rule is 4g minus 1 equals h. And I know 4g means 4 times g. And then I'm going to subtract 1. So I'm going to start with my input-output table, and I know that the numbers I'll be putting in will replace g, and my output, the answer, is h. So I'm going to use 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 as my input. And I'm just choosing to use a pattern by going up by 10. I could use numbers that are all different and different distances apart and not have a pattern. So our rule is 4g minus 1. So I know my first input is going to be 4 times 10 minus 1. I know 4 times 10 is 40, minus 1 is 39. So when I put in 10, I get out 39. Now I'm going to do 4 times 20 minus 1. 4 times 20 is 80, minus 1 is 79. 4 times 30 minus 1, I know 4 times 3 is 12, so 4 times 30 is 120, minus 1 is going to be 119. 4 times 4 is 16, so I know 4 times 40 is 160, and minus 1 is 59. And the last is 50. 4 times 5 is 20, so that's 200 minus 1, which is 199. So because I used a pattern on this side by going up by 10, I also have a pattern on this side, and I'm actually going up by 40. And it makes sense because the relationship over here, 10, should be multiplied by 4, which would give me 40 to match the relationship in the table. Now let's try the next problem. The rule here is s divided by 2, the fraction bar is a division symbol, plus 6 equals r. So if you want to rewrite this, s divided by 2 plus 6 equals r. So I'm going to put in some values, and this time I won't use a pattern. So let's start plugging in. S divided by 2 plus 6. So if I plug in 6, I know that 6 divided by 2 is 3, and if I add 6, that is 9. Now I want to plug in 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5, and 5 plus 6 is 11. Now let's try 24 divided by 2 plus 6. I know 24 divided by 2 is 12, and 12 plus 6 is 18. Now 32 is my input. 32 divided by 2 is 16, and 16 plus 6 is going to be 22, and then 36 divided by 2 plus 6. 36 divided by 2 is 18. I know that 8 plus 6 is 14, which gives me 24. So over here, I didn't use a pattern. I went up by different values. Went up by 4, 14, and so on. So over here, you probably don't see much of a pattern. But you should notice that as we go down the chart, these values are increasing, and so is my output side. And I should have labeled my input was S and my output is R. Make the following pattern tables and apply the rule to complete the output for each chart. Write down any patterns you notice throughout the charts.